Use a warm, empathetic Taunton-year-old Jack walked slowly down the quiet street toward his school. The morning sun was shining. Other children were laughing and playing as they walked. But Jack felt different. His small hand was deep in his pocket, holding the 2 shiny coins his mother had given him that morning. "Here's your lunch money, sweetheart," Mary had said with a big smile. She always packed his bag carefully and kissed his forehead before he left. "Make sure you eat something healthy today." Jack had nodded and smiled back, but inside his stomach was already hurting. Not from hunger yet, but from fear. He knew what would happen when he reached school. The same thing that happened every single day for the past month as Jack walked through the school gates. He saw his friends running round the playground. They looked so happy and carefree. He wished he could feel that way too. But as he got closer to his classroom, his steps became slower and slower. There was Mr. Thompson, standing by the classroom door like he always did. He was a tall man with cold grey eyes and a frown that never seemed to leave his face. When he saw Jack approaching, that familiar mean look appeared on his face. "Well, well," Mr. Thompson said in his harsh voice. "Look who's here. Come here." Boy, Jack's heart started beating very fast. His hands became sweaty, and he felt sick to his stomach. He walked toward his teacher with his head down, already knowing what was coming next. "Hand over your lunch money," Mr. Thompson demanded, stretching out his large hand. "You know the drill. It's a special fee for extra books and supplies." Jack looked round quickly. Other children were walking into the classroom, chatting happily with their friends. None of them had to give their lunch money to Mr. Thompson, only Jack. He had asked himself many times why this was happening only to him, but he was too scared to ask anyone. With shaking fingers, Jack pulled the 2 pounds from his pocket and placed them in Mr. Thompson's waiting hand. The coins felt heavy, like they were made of sadness instead of metal. "Good boy," Mr. Thompson said with a cold smile. "Now get to your seat and don't cause any trouble today." Jack walked to his desk, feeling empty inside. He sat down and tried to focus on the morning lessons, but his mind kept thinking about lunchtime. In just a few hours, all his classmates would go to the cafeteria and buy their meals. They would laugh and talk while eating sandwiches, soup, and fruit. But Jack would sit alone, pretending he wasn't hungry. The morning dragged on slowly. Jack's friend Tom, who sat next to him, was excited about the math quiz they had later. "I studied so hard last night," Tom whispered. "My mom helped me practice." Jack tried to smile, but he couldn't concentrate on what Tom was saying. His empty stomach was already starting to make small rumbling sounds. He pressed his hand against it, hoping no one would hear. When the lunch bell finally rang, Jack watched all the other children jump up from their seats excitedly. They grabbed their lunch money and rushed toward the door, talking about what they would eat today. "Come on," Jack called his friend Emma. "Let's go get lunch together." Jack shook his head slowly. "I'm not hungry today." He lied. "I had a big breakfast." Emma looked confused. "But you said that yesterday too, and the day before." "I'm just not hungry," Jack repeated, looking down at his desk. Emma shrugged and ran off with the other children. Soon, Jack was alone in the empty classroom. He could hear the happy voices of his classmates getting quieter as they walked toward the cafeteria. Jack put his head down on his desk and closed his eyes. His stomach was making louder noises now, and he felt dizzy. This had been happening every day for weeks, and each day it got a little bit worse. He thought about his mother, Mary, who worked so hard to make sure he had everything he needed. She woke up early every morning to make his breakfast and pack his school bag. She always asked him about his day when he came home, and her eyes would light up when he told her about things he learned. But lately, Jack had been lying to her more and more. When she asked about lunch, he would say he ate everything and it was delicious. When she asked why he seemed tired, he would say he had been playing hard at recess. The lies made him feel terrible, but he was too scared to tell her the truth. What if she got angry? What if she didn't believe him? What if she thought he was making up stories? Mr. Thompson was a teacher, an adult that everyone respected. Who would believe that he was taking money from a little boy as Jack sat alone in the classroom? He could smell the food from the cafeteria drifting through the hallways. His mouth watered, and his stomach cramped with hunger. He had about 30 more minutes before the other children returned from lunch. He closed his eyes and tried to imagine eating his favorite meal. His mother's homemade shepherd's pie with mashed potato. The thought made him feel a little better, but it also made the hunger worse. Jack didn't know how much longer he could keep this secret. Every day, he felt weaker and sadder. Every day, the lies became harder to tell. But every day, he was still too frightened to ask for help. Use a warm, empathetic tone. Henry stood in her small kitchen that Tuesday morning, just like she did every day. The sunlight was coming through the window, making everything look warm and bright. She hummed a little song while she made Jack's favorite sandwich, peanut butter and strawberry jam on soft white bread. She packed the sandwich carefully in his blue lunchbox, along with a red apple, some crackers, and a small bottle of orange juice. Mary always made sure Jack had enough food to keep him strong and happy during his long school day. Jack, love, she called up the stairs. Your lunch is ready. Jack came down slowly, rubbing his eyes. Mary noticed he looked very tired, even though he had gone to bed early the night before. His face was pale, and he seemed smaller somehow, like he was shrinking into himself. Here you go, sweetheart, Mary said, handing him the lunchbox and his school bag. I made your favorite sandwich. Today, Jack took the lunchbox but didn't look excited like he usually did. Thanks, Mom, he said quietly. Mary felt a little worried, but she kissed his forehead and watched him walk slowly towards school. Something felt different about her son lately, but she couldn't figure out what it was. The day passed normally for Mary. She cleaned the house, did some shopping, and prepared dinner. But she kept thinking about Jack and how sad he had looked that morning. When Jack came home from school that afternoon, Mary was waiting by the door with a big smile. Hello, my love. How was your day? Jack mumbled something about it being okay and started walking toward his room. But Mary noticed something that made her stop and stare. Jack, wait a moment, she said gently. Can I see your lunchbox? Jack's face went red, and he held the lunchbox tighter against his chest. Why, Mom, I just want to make sure you ate everything, Mary said with a kind smile. You know how I worry about you eating enough. Very slowly, Jack handed over the blue lunchbox. Mary opened it carefully, and her heart sank. The sandwich was still there, wrapped exactly as she had packed it. The apple was untouched. The crackers were still in their package. Even the orange juice was full. Mary looked at her son with growing concern. Jack, sweetheart, why didn't you eat your lunch today? Jack's bottom lip started to shake, and his eyes filled with tears. He looked down at his shoes and whispered, I wasn't hungry, Mom. Mary knew immediately that her son was not telling her the truth. In all his 10 years, Jack had never been a child who wasn't hungry. He loved food, especially the lunches she packed for him. Something was very wrong. Mary sat down on the sofa and patted the space next to her. Come here, Jack, Sit with me." Jack walked over slowly and sat down, but he kept his head down. Mary put her arm round his thin shoulders and felt how much weight he had lost. Her heart began to race with worry. "Jack, my darling boy," she said, in her softest voice, "you can tell me anything in the whole world. I love you no matter what happens. Are you having problems at school?" Jack started crying then, big tears rolling down his cheeks. Mary held him closer and waited patiently. She could feel his little body shaking with sobs. I can't tell you, Mom," Jack cried. "You'll be angry with me." "Oh, sweetheart," Mary said, her own eyes filling with tears. "I could never be angry with you for telling me the truth. Whatever is happening, we can fix it together." For several minutes, Jack cried in his mother's arms. Mary just held him and stroked his hair, way she had done when he was a baby. Finally, Jack looked up at her with his red, swollen eyes. "Mr. Thompson takes my lunch money every day," he whispered so quietly that Mary almost couldn't hear him. "He says it's a special fee for books, but I think he's lying. Other kids don't have to pay it." Mary felt like someone had punched her in the stomach. Her hands started shaking, and she felt very angry. But she tried to stay calm for Jack's sake. "Every day," she asked gently. Jack nodded. "Every single day for weeks. He waits by the classroom door and makes me give him the money. I'm too scared to say no. Then I have to sit in the classroom during lunch because I can't buy food." Mary's heart was breaking into a million pieces. Her innocent, sweet little boy had been suffering alone for so long, and she hadn't known. She felt like she had failed as a mother. "Oh, my brave, brave boy," she whispered, hugging him so tight. "You did nothing wrong. This is not your fault at all. That man is the one who did something bad. Not you." Jack cried harder. "I was so scared to tell you. I thought you might not believe me, Jack." "I will always believe you," Mary said firmly. "Always. You are my son, and I trust you completely." That evening, after Jack had gone to bed, Mary called her husband David at his job site. David was a carpenter who worked hard building houses. He was a quiet, gentle man. But Mary knew he would be very upset when he heard what was happening to their son, David. Mary said when he answered the phone, "Something terrible is happening to Jack at school." She told him everything Jack had shared with her. David listened without saying a word. Use a warm, empathetic tone. The morning air was cool and fresh when David woke up extra early that Wednesday. He had barely slept all night, thinking about what his wife Mary had told him. His little boy Jack had been suffering for weeks, and David felt angry and sad at the same time. But today, he was going to do something about it. David went downstairs quietly and made breakfast for the family. He cooked Jack's favorite, scrambled eggs with toast and a glass of fresh orange juice. When Jack came down to the kitchen, his father was waiting with a gentle smile. "Good morning, son," David said, pulling out a chair for Jack. "Sit down. We need to talk." Jack sat down slowly, looking worried. His father had never asked to talk to him so seriously before breakfast. David sat across from his son and looked into his eyes. "Jack, your mother told me what has been happening at school with Mr. Thompson." Jack's face went red, and he looked down at his plate. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have told you sooner." No, David said quickly, reaching across to touch Jack's hand. "You have nothing to be sorry about. Mr. Thompson is the one who should be sorry. What he is doing is very wrong." Jack looked up at his father with surprise. "Really?" "Yes, really," David said firmly. "Taking your money is stealing. Jack, it doesn't matter that he's a teacher. Adults should protect children and help them. not hurt them or take things from them. Jack felt a warm feeling in his chest. His father believed him completely, and that made him feel stronger than he had felt in weeks. David continued talking in his calm, steady voice today. We're going to work together to stop this from happening, not just to you, but to any other children he might be hurting too. Jack's eyes grew wide. What do you mean, Dad? David reached into his pocket and pulled out a very small black device, about the size of a coin. This is a recording machine. Jack, it's so small that no one will see it. I'm going to put it in your school bag, and it will record everything. That happens when you talk to Mr. Thompson. Jack stared at the tiny device. Will it really work? Yes, it will, David said. But Jack, I need you to be very brave today. Can you do that for me? Jack thought for a moment. He was still scared of Mr. Thompson, but knowing his father was helping him made him feel different. I think so, Dad. But what if Mr. Thompson gets angry when he finds out? David knelt down beside Jack's chair so. They were at the same height. He put his hands on his son's shoulders and looked straight into his eyes. Son, doing the right thing is sometimes scary. I understand that you're frightened. But think about this. If we stay quiet and do nothing, Mr. Thompson will keep taking money from you every day. He might also be taking money from other children too. If we don't stop him, he will keep hurting kids. Jack nodded slowly. He hadn't thought about other children being hurt too. You're going to be very brave today, David continued, braver than you've ever been before. And I'm going to be proud of you no matter what happens. David then pulled out a white envelope from his jacket pocket. The envelope was sealed with tape, and it had Mr. Thompson's name written on the front in David's neat handwriting. If Mr. Thompson asks for your money today, like he always does, I want you to give him this letter too. David said, tell him that your father asked you to give it to him. Jack took the envelope with shaking hands. What does it say, Dad? David smiled. It says some things that Mr. Thompson needs to know. But don't worry about what's inside. Just remember to give it to him along with the money. David carefully placed the tiny recording device inside Jack's school bag, hiding it under his books where no one would see it. Then he hugged his son tightly. Remember, Jack, you are not alone today. I am with you, even when I'm not there. Your mother and I love you very much. And we are going to protect you. Jack walked to school that morning feeling different than he had felt in a long time. His steps were still slow, and his heart was still beating fast. But there was something new inside him. It was hope. When he reached the school gates, Jack saw other children playing and laughing as usual. But today, instead of feeling jealous of their happiness, he felt like maybe soon he could be happy like them. As Jack got closer to his classroom, he saw the familiar figure of Mr. Thompson standing by the door. The tall man with cold grey eyes was waiting, just like every other day. But today, Jack was ready for him. Jack's hands were shaking as he walked toward his teacher. But he kept walking. The envelope felt heavy in his pocket, and he could feel the recording device in his bag. His father's words echoed in his mind. You're going to be very brave today. Mr. Thompson saw Jack approaching and got that mean look on his face that Jack knew so well. Well, Mr. Thompson said with his cruel smile. Look who's here. Come here, boy. Jack walked up to his teacher, his heart pounding so loud he thought everyone could hear it. Hand over the money, Mr. Thompson demanded, just like always. But this time, Jack was ready. Use a warm, empathetic tone. Jack stood in front of Mr. Thompson with trembling hands. But this time something was different. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the £2 his mother had given him. Just like every other day. But then he did something he had never done before. "My father asked me to give you this too," Jack said quietly, pulling out the white envelope from his other pocket. Dotmer. Thompson grabbed the money quickly, like he always did. But when he saw the envelope, he looked confused. He tore it open roughly and pulled out a single piece of paper. Jack watched his teacher's face as he read the letter. At first, Mr. Thompson looked annoyed, like he was expecting something unimportant. But as his eyes moved across the words, everything changed. The letter was not very long, but every word was important. It said, "Mr. Thompson, I know you have been stealing money from my son every day. This conversation is being recorded. Meet me in the headmaster's office at 3 p.m. today. If you don't come, I will take this recording to the police and the school board." A concerned parent. Mr. Thompson's face went completely white, like he had seen a ghost. His hands started shaking, so badly that the paper made a rustling sound. Then his face turned bright red, and sweat appeared on his forehead. He looked at Jack with wide, frightened eyes. The little boy who had always seemed so small and helpless was standing there, looking back at him calmly. Where is this recording device?" Mr. Thompson whispered, his voice shaking. Jack felt something growing inside his chest. It was a feeling he had never experienced before. It was courage, real courage. For the first time in weeks, Jack was not afraid of his teacher. "I don't have to tell you that," Jack said quietly, but his voice was steady and strong. Dotmer. Thompson looked round frantically, like he was searching for something. He looked at Jack's school bag, at his pockets, at his clothes, but the recording device was hidden so well that he couldn't see it. You can't do this," Mr. Thompson stammered. "I'm your teacher. You have to respect me." Jack stood up straighter. "My father says that respect has to be earned. You haven't earned mine." Other children were starting to arrive at the classroom, and they noticed immediately that something strange was happening. Mr. Thompson was acting very differently from his usual mean self. He looked scared and nervous. During the morning lessons, Mr. Thompson kept looking at Jack. He would start to teach something, then stop and glance over at the boy. His hands were still shaking, and he dropped his chalk twice while writing on the blackboard. Jack's friend Tom whispered, "What's wrong with Mr. Thompson today? He looks sick." Jack just shrugged, but inside he felt proud and strong. He was keeping his father's secret, and he was being brave, just like David had asked him to be. At lunchtime, something amazing happened. For the first time in weeks, Jack had money to buy food. Mr. Thompson had been so shocked by the letter that he had forgotten to take Jack's lunch money back. Jack walked to the cafeteria with his classmates, feeling like he was in a dream. He bought a sandwich, some fruit, and a bottle of milk. When he sat down to eat with his friends, the food tasted better than anything he had eaten in a long time. "You seem really happy today, Jack," his friend Emma said. "Are you feeling better?" Jack smiled. "Yes, I think I am feeling much better." The afternoon went by very slowly. Jack kept looking at the clock on the classroom wall. 2:30 p.m., 2:45 p.m., 2:55 p.m. Almost time. Dotmer. Thompson was getting more and more nervous as 3 p.m. got closer. He kept wiping sweat from his face and looking at the door like he expected someone to walk in at any moment. At exactly 3 p.m., there was a loud knock on the classroom door. Everyone in the class turned to look. The door opened, and Jack's father David walked in. Behind him was Mr. Williams, the headmaster of the school. Mr. Williams was a kind but serious man who always wore a dark suit and tie. He looked very concerned and angry. "Mr. Thompson," the headmaster said in a firm voice, "we need to speak with you immediately. Please come with us to my office." Mr. Thompson's face went wide again. He looked at Jack one more time, and Jack could see fear in the teacher's eyes. "Class, please read quietly from your books until I return," Mr. Thompson said in a shaky voice. But Jack knew that Mr. Thompson would not be returning to their classroom ever again. As the three men walked out of the room, Jack felt something wonderful for the first time in weeks. He felt proud of himself. He had been part of solving his own problem. He hadn't just been a victim. He had been brave and had helped his father catch the bad teacher. Th. The other children in the class were whispering excitedly, wondering what was happening. But Jack sat quietly at his desk, feeling stronger and happier than he had felt in a very long time. In the headmaster's office, David pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Mr. Thompson's voice came out clearly. "Hand over your lunch money." Boy, when Mr. Thompson heard his own voice, he put his head in his hands and started crying. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I have gambling debts. I needed the money. I know it was wrong." Mr. Williams stood up, his face red with anger. "You're fired immediately. I'm calling the police right now." Use a warm, empathetic tone. 3 months had passed since the terrible day when Mr. Thompson was taken away by the police. Jack was sitting in his bedroom, looking at himself in the mirror, and he could hardly believe how much he had changed. His face was no longer pale and thin. His cheeks were full and pink again. The dark circles under his eyes had disappeared completely. He had grown taller, and his clothes fit him properly now. But the biggest change was not something anyone could see from the outside. It was the way Jack felt inside. Every morning, Jack walked to school with a big smile on his face. He carried his lunch money in his pocket without any fear. When he reached his classroom, there was no scary teacher waiting to take his money away. Instead, there was Mrs. Roberts, the kindest teacher Jack had ever met. Mrs. Roberts was a gentle woman with gray hair and warm brown eyes. She always greeted each student with a smile and asked them how they were feeling. She never shouted or made anyone feel afraid. When children made mistakes, she helped them learn instead of making them feel bad. "Good morning, Jack," Mrs. Roberts would say every day. "Are you ready for another day of learning?" And Jack would always answer, "Yes, Mrs. Roberts, I'm ready." His grades had improved so much that his parents could hardly believe it. In math, he went from failing to getting almost perfect scores in reading. He was now one of the best students in the class. His teachers were amazed at how quickly he had changed. But Jack knew the real reason for his success. When you're not hungry and scared every day, it's much easier to learn and grow. One day, about 2 weeks after Mr. Thompson had been arrested, the headmaster, Mr. Williams, called Jack and his parents to his office. Jack was worried at first, thinking he might be in trouble. But Mr. Williams had good news to share. "Jack," the headmaster said with a kind smile, "I want you to know that you were very brave to speak up about Mr. Thompson. Because of you, we discovered that he was also taking money from 5 other children in different classes." Jack's eyes grew wide. 5 other children? Yes, Mr. Williams nodded. Tom Peterson from grade 4, Emma Clark from grade 3, and 3 others. They were all too scared to tell anyone, just like you were. But when we told them what happened with you, they found the courage to speak up too. Mary, Jack's mother, reached over and squeezed her son's hand. "You saved all those children. Jack, you should be very proud of yourself." David, Jack's father, put his arm round his son's shoulders. "All the parents wanted me to thank you and Jack personally. You helped their children too." Jack felt warm. Happy feelings spread through his whole body. He had never thought that being brave could help so many other people. The days passed peacefully. After that, Jack made new friends and played games during lunchtime instead of sitting alone and hungry. He joined the school soccer team and discovered that he was quite good at running. His laughter could be heard across the playground as he played with other children. One warm evening in late spring, Jack was sitting in the garden behind his house with his father David. They were both looking up at the stars that were just beginning to appear in the darkening sky. The air smelled like flowers, and everything felt peaceful and safe. "Dad," Jack said thoughtfully, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, son. You can ask me anything." Jack was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to say what was in his mind. "Why didn't you just go to the headmaster right away? When Mom told you what was happening, why did you make me be part of catching Mr. Thompson?" David smiled and looked at his son with proud eyes. "That's a very good question, Jack. I could have gone to Mr. Williams immediately and told him what Mr. Thompson was doing. The problem would have been solved quickly. So why didn't you?" Jack asked. "Because, Jack, I wanted you to learn something very important. I wanted you to understand that you have power too. Even though you're just a child, you can stand up against wrong things. You are not just a victim of what Mr. Thompson was doing. You were part of solving the problem." Jack thought about this for a long time. It was really scary. "Dad, I was so frightened when I gave him that letter." "I know you were scared," David said gently, "but you did it anyway. That's what real courage is." "What do you mean?" David put his arm round Jack and pulled him closer. "Courage isn't about not being scared, son. Courage is about doing the right thing even when you're scared. Anyone can do something when they're not afraid, but doing something when you're afraid, that takes real strength." Jack nodded slowly. "I think I understand now. I was scared, but I did it anyway because it was the right thing to do." "Exactly right," David said with a big smile. Years passed, and Jack grew up to be a strong, kind young man. He never forgot the lesson his father taught him about courage and standing up for what was right. When he was old enough, Jack decided to become a teacher himself on his first day as a teacher. Jack stood in front of his classroom full of children and made himself a promise. The end.